Sixers fans, how we feeling out there? Hey y'all, my name is Lauren Gordon. Some of you may already know me on social media as Lauren Fan of the Year. Others may have just stumbled upon this podcast, but either way, I want to first thank all of you for tuning in to episode 6 of my very first podcast. I'm just a Sixers fan, the Lauren Fan of the Year story. Now let's continue the story. The year is now 1996. I was now married for 4 years and I was a full-time stay-at-home mom to 3 3-year-olds. Y'all, this was the best time of my life. I had a hardworking husband who provided for our family, a beautiful home, and beautiful, healthy, smart, affectionate babies. Our home was filled with laughter, music, and lots of love. Life was great. Y'all, I was living my dream of being a mom and taking care of my family. My hands were full. I am grateful for my mother-in-law who would watch all the babies every now and then so Larry and I could have an occasional date night out. Most of the time, we looked forward to putting the kids to bed, grabbing a beer, me grabbing a glass of wine or margarita, and us sharing a bowl of popcorn, watching the Sixers on TV, even though they weren't worth watching. The Sixers' 1995-1996 season ended 18-64 under Coach John Lucas. It was his second year after he replaced Fred Carter. This was like our 5th straight season of having a less than 500 record. Early in this season, we signed Vernon Maxwell as a free agent. We had traded Sean Bradley, Greg Graham, and Tim Perry to the New Jersey Nets for Derek Coleman, Sean Higgins, and Rex Walters. We had Scott Skiles on the roster for a minute, and we were bad, like really bad. The only bright spot was we had the number 1 pick in the 1996 NBA draft, and the names floating around were Kobe Bryant, who was also Jelly Bean Bryant's son, who was a Sixer, and Allen Iverson. Now, y'all, Kobe had Philly ties. Growing up in the area and graduating Lower Merion High School, but all my in-laws were telling me about Bubba Chuck, and I knew with either one, we would definitely improve our roster. On June 26, 1996, David Stern, the commissioner, announced at the NBA draft, ding, 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 with the number 1 pick, the Philadelphia 76ers select Allen Iverson. Y'all, listen, that draft class in 1996, in my opinion, would be the best draft class in NBA history, with first-round selections of names like Iverson, Marcus Camby, Stephon Marbury, Ray Allen, Antoine Walker, Kerry Kittles, Kobe, Steve Nash, Jermaine O'Neal, and y'all, I was glad we got AI. And I was thinking, hopefully now we could start winning some games. Johnny Dawkins was hired as the head coach. In Iverson's rookie year, he started 74 games and averaged 23.5 points, 7.5 assists, 2.1 steals, and had 19 double-doubles. He would earn the 96-97 Rookie of the Year award. Okay. With Iverson on the team, it infused some much-needed energy into my Sixers. I remember one day I saw an ad in the newspaper that they were holding auditions for Sixers dancers. Y'all, the Sixers dancers was like the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. They wore scantily clad outfits and performed high energy dance routines during the timeouts and halftime. It was very glamorous. The outfits, the hair, the makeup, the sexy moves. And I thought to myself, this would be fun. Y'all, I never thought that I would be selected to be on the Sixers dance team. I had no dance experience. I could do the WAP, the Cabbage Patch, and the Tootsie Roll, but that was about it. Plus, remember, I had just birthed 3 babies in 9 months, and I was still carrying the pregnancy weight. And I knew I wouldn't be able to honor the time commitment with 3 kids and a husband at home. But I told y'all, I don't take myself too serious. And I thought it would be fun to look back and say to my kids one day, you know, I auditioned to be a Sixers dancer. I didn't want to go by myself. So I talked my sister-in-law and my cousin to audition with me. So y'all, we got down to the Core State Center and we learned the choreography. I'll never forget it. It was to Queen of the Night by En Vogue. Y'all know the song. Y'all, I still remember the first 8 counts. Like, I could probably perform it right now. But anyway, we performed in groups of 10 in front of the judges, and they began making the cuts. Needless to say, my sister-in-law, my cousin, nor I were selected to move forward to the next round. But y'all, it was so much fun because we had made connections with some of the other dancers, so we were rooting for them as well. And I remember us getting in the car and we were cracking the hell up. We were so proud of ourselves for just going for it. Y'all, this is the stuff that great memories are made of. My babies went to preschool from ages 3 to 5. At first, it was nice, y'all, just to get a break, but I would find myself volunteering a lot of the time, so much the Head Start program suggested I apply for the open assistant teacher position. They would pay for my early childhood accreditation to be an assistant teacher, and a year later, I would be accredited to be a lead teacher in my own class. And it was great because now I was getting paid to teach in one room and my kids were students in the other classrooms. It was a perfect transition because I loved kids. I didn't see the kids in my class as students. They were my children. I love them all. And believe it or not, y'all, I still stay in contact with quite a few of my preschoolers. They're grown now. But I've watched them grow over the years, and most of them have children of their own, and I'm proud of all of them. In May of 1997, we hired Larry Brown as the Sixers head coach. This would also be the year when Iverson crossed over Michael Jordan in his rookie season. Iconic. That game would be groundbreaking for Iverson. Everyone remembers that crossover play. He took on the GOAT one-on-one, and he was able to catch him slipping. Iverson would be synonymous with the crossover, as he had perfected that move, and he was unstoppable. The Sixers' record in the 1997-98 season was 31-51. Y'all, it wasn't until the 1998-99 season when we finally had a winning record. That season was shortened to only 50 games due to the lockout. Y'all remember this? So we had a winning record of 28-22. Also, during this season, we had Larry Hughes, Matt Geiger, George Lynch, Aaron McKee, Doug Overton, Theo Ratliff, Tim Thomas, Tyrone Hill, Harvey Grant. That was a pretty good roster. Because our babies were still young, Larry and I watched most of the games on TV at home. If the game was on a Friday or Saturday night, our friends would come over with their kids and we'd order takeout. We'd make some margaritas, we'd have a case of beer, and we cheered on our Sixers. This was the life. This was our life. Over the next few seasons, AI gave us an identity as a city, as a team, as a fan base. He gave us the most exciting games because you knew he was going to give everything he had every single night. There was no load management back then, and even if it was, there was no way in hell Iverson was going to take any games off to rest. Even when watching the games, you would see him get upset when Coach Larry Brown would take him out the game. He wanted to play 48 minutes, 82 games, period. Iverson was the franchise player we had been waiting for. He was the answer. He was a 6-foot guard who would drive to the rim going up against huge centers in the paint like Shaq, Olajuwon, Patrick Ewing. He gave everything he had every single night. In 2001, the kids were now 7 years old, so it was easier to have family as sitters while Larry and I went to the games at the First Union Center, or what we would call the FU Center. And in April of 2001, I would learn that I was pregnant with our 4th child. Larry and I always wanted lots of children, so we were both very excited. The doctor told me the due date, and y'all, I couldn't believe it. It was the same date as Larry and the twins' birthday. Are you serious? The 2000-2001 season was by far the most exhilarating and exciting season that I can recall as a Sixers fan ever. We would end the regular season 56-26, finishing first in the Atlantic Division. We went to the NBA Finals against the Lakers as underdogs. They had Shaq and Kobe, but y'all, we were led by AI. And I also remember Pat Croce's presence and involvement with the team during this time. And I had heard he was behind the car flags that you now see everywhere, whether it's the regular season or the playoffs. I remember the iconic black jerseys. I remember the braided Iverson. I remember the braided with headband Iverson, the hold my own tattooed Iverson. I remember the arm sleeve Iverson, the long shorts Iverson. I remember Iverson making a great play and then going into his famous pose where he puts his hand up to his ear as if to say, I can't hear y'all. And we as fans, we were going crazy because Iverson was giving us everything that we asked for as fans and more. I loved watching the battles between AI and Kobe. This was Kobe's hometown, but it was obvious that the city of Philadelphia belonged to Allen Iverson. Y'all, it was like watching a boxing match. 2 fierce competitors. Neither one of them would back down. And of course, what I remember the most was the Game 1 AI step over on Tyronn Lue. Larry and I hosted a watch party at our house, and I remember everyone, including myself, going crazy. With all that excitement and momentum, I just knew we were going to upset the Lakers. They would win the 2001 NBA championship in Game 5. It would be a Lakers back-to-back championship. Iverson was the answer. He got us to the NBA Finals. He played damn near every minute with no real superstars. But mad respect for Tyrone Hill, Dikembe Mutombo, Eric Snow, Aaron McKee, Matt Geiger, Rajah Bell. We came up short, y'all, but as a fan, I could not have been more proud of Iverson and our Philadelphia 76ers. In September of 2001, I was 6 months pregnant, and I was teaching my preschool class when I first heard of the attack on the World Trade Center. I remember the fear, the uncertainty, the sadness, the grief, the feeling of hopelessness and vulnerability. The world would never be the same. 3 months later, in December of 2001, 7 days exactly before Larry, Corey, and LJ's birthday, I would give birth to our 4th child, our 3rd daughter, Kendall. We were now in the first half of the 2001-2002 season. Could AI get us back to the finals? And if so, could we get over the hump to win a championship? Y'all, I loved AI. He went against the grain. He marched to the beat of his own drum. Iverson was unapologetically himself. He wore braids, he had tattoos, he rapped, he wore gold chains and ice in his ear. He was the culture. This obviously made David Stern, the NBA commissioner at the time, very nervous. So much he implemented a dress code for the NBA players. Was this the image they wanted as the face of the league? Some people looked at Iverson as a thug. We, on the other hand, as Sixers fans, we knew his heart. We knew his dedication to the game. We knew his will to win. We never had to guess or question which Iverson was going to show up each game because we knew he was the answer. Iverson stayed true to himself, and he stayed true to his childhood friends. He brought them along for his journey. He shared his success with his family and closest friends. Sometimes Larry's cousins from Newport News would come to Philly to go to the games to see their friend Chuck, or Bubba Chuck. I didn't know him, so I was like any other fan. I just referred to him as Iverson or AI. But my in-laws called him Chuck or Bubba Chuck. I recall a time when Larry asked if his cousin Ra could stay at our house for a couple nights. Larry loved having guests. I hated having guests. I think it was because I had the kids on a schedule. I spent all day cooking, doing laundry, and cleaning up after 4 kids and a husband. The last thing I wanted was overnight guests. To me, it broke up our routine, and I looked at it as another person to clean up behind. I love taking care of my family, but y'all, I was exhausted. Larry told me his cousin was only staying for a couple nights, and I reluctantly agreed. Y'all, it turned out that Rasan was no problem at all. He spent most of the time just talking with Larry and his cousins, and they would go out, so they weren't really around the house, so it was really no big deal. And Rob was cool. He was respectful. He cleaned up after himself. And I only had that one interaction with Ra. Later, I would learn that Ra was murdered in Hampton, Virginia. He was a part of my in-law family, and he was also Chuck's best friend. And while Iverson publicly grieved the loss of his friend, He still gave everything he had every minute he played on the floor. And yet the media was talking about practice. They really were talking about practice.